What if one of the greatest war epics ever made was also a battlefield behind the camera? When The Longest Day marched into theaters in 1962, audiences saw courage, chaos, and history reborn in black and white. But what they didn't see were the feuds, rivalries, and real scars that shaped its all-star cast. Some actors were veterans haunted by war. Others faked heroism for fame. Let's uncover 15 cast secrets that changed everything you thought you knew about The Longest Day. John Wayne's $250,000 feud with Darryl F. Zanuck. This wasn't just a casting choice, it was a clash of titans. When John Wayne joined The Longest Day, he was already America's most famous war hero on screen. But off-set, Wayne was furious. He discovered producer Darryl F. Zanuck had paid him $250,000, half of what he demanded. Wayne felt insulted, calling it an unpatriotic lowball for a man who carried the flag. Zanuck didn't flinch. He told Wayne, "You're lucky to be in this picture at all." Filming became a silent standoff. Wayne shot his scenes alone, refused to socialize, and reportedly avoided eye contact with Zanuck for the rest of production. Ironically, his gruff resentment added realism to his portrayal of Lieutenant Cole Vandervoort, wounded, stubborn, and bitter at command. What audiences never realized was that Wayne's anger wasn't acting, it was personal. Richard Burton shot his scene drunk. It wasn't method acting, it was survival. Richard Burton, cast as Flying Officer David Campbell, filmed his scenes while recovering from surgery and deep in alcoholism. He showed up on set visibly intoxicated, slurring lines so badly the director ordered multiple takes. But here's the twist. Zanuck refused to cut him. Burton's raw, hollow-eyed performance looked eerily authentic, capturing the exhaustion of men staring into death. Even critics called it a perfect portrayal of wartime fatigue. Behind the camera, Burton barely remembered doing the film. Later, he joked, "I was paid to drink on camera and call it war." But privately, his co-stars knew it wasn't funny. Burton's drinking spiraled out of control after The Longest Day, and this small cameo became an omen of how his off-screen battles would soon eclipse his fame. Henry Fonda didn't want to be there. He looked like calm authority on screen, but inside, Henry Fonda was done with Hollywood. A real-life Navy veteran from World War II, Fonda returned to play Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr., only because Zanuck begged him. The irony? Fonda hated the script. He thought the dialogue sounded like a general's press release. He accepted the role out of respect for the real Roosevelt, but he barely spoke between takes. Younger actors described him as cold as steel, lost in his own memories. During one quiet lunch break, Fonda reportedly said, "We're pretending what real men actually lived through. I buried too many friends to make it entertainment." That line never left the crew. For Fonda, The Longest Day wasn't nostalgia, it was guilt. Richard Todd reenacted his own D-Day mission. What fans never realized was that one cast member wasn't acting, he was reliving. British actor Richard Todd, who played Major John Howard in The Longest Day, had actually fought on D-Day in 1944. Todd parachuted into Normandy as part of the 6th Airborne Division. When cameras rolled 18 years later, he was filming on the same soil where his friends had died. Todd even wore his original uniform and used his own gear. During one take, he froze mid-scene, staring at the bridge he'd once defended under fire. When asked if he was all right, Todd said quietly, "Just ghosts." For audiences, his performance looked composed and heroic. For Todd, it was something else entirely, a haunting. Sean Connery was nearly cut from the film. This wasn't superstardom, it was a close call. Before James Bond made him a global name, Sean Connery was a struggling actor, desperate for work. He landed a small part in The Longest Day as Private Flanagan, but Zanuck almost cut him after one day of filming, saying, "He's too cocky for a soldier." Connery fought to stay, delivering his lines with such effortless defiance that the director changed his mind. Ironically, the film premiered just weeks before Dr. No hit theaters. Overnight, the man almost deleted from The Longest Day became the biggest star on Earth. Connery later laughed about it, saying, "I went from being expendable to unkillable." Robert Mitchum nearly quit over fake war. He was Hollywood's ultimate tough guy, but he hated pretense. Robert Mitchum, cast as Brigadier General Norman Cota, had no patience for Hollywood's version of combat. He'd served during the war and despised actors who played soldiers like magazine covers. When he saw extras treating the set like a vacation, he erupted. "You don't smile during shell fire," he yelled at one. Mitchum clashed with the assistant director so badly, he threatened to walk off mid-shoot. Only Zanuck's personal call convinced him to stay. Ironically, Mitchum's fury translated into one of the most authentic performances in the film, commanding, weary, and disgusted by hero worship. Behind the scenes, he just fought another kind of battle, against Hollywood's illusion of war. Red Buttons nearly died, filming his parachute scene. This wasn't just acting, it was survival gone wrong. Actor Red Buttons, who played paratrooper John Steele, filmed the famous scene where he hangs from a church steeple during the D-Day drop. The stunt went horribly wrong when the wind caught the harness and spun him upside down for real. Buttons was left dangling for several minutes before crew members could reach him. He lost consciousness twice. When he finally came down, he reportedly whispered, "That's enough D-Day for me." Producers kept the take. What fans saw on screen wasn't movie magic. It was a near-death accident captured on film. Roddy McDowall's role was so small. He felt betrayed. For rising star Roddy McDowall, The Longest Day was supposed to be his comeback. He'd been promised a substantial role as Lieutenant Edward Chandler, but when the final cut premiered, most of his scenes were gone. He sat in the theater stunned as his dialogue vanished one scene after another. McDowall told friends, "I didn't get killed by the Germans. I got killed in editing." Behind the glamorous cast list, many actors faced the same fate, cut, minimized, or lost to the film's massive scale. For McDowall, it became a painful reminder that even in epic cinema, fame can be as fleeting as a flash in the fog of war. Peter Lawford used the set to escape his personal scandal. What audiences didn't know was that Peter Lawford wasn't just fleeing the Nazis on screen, he was fleeing tabloid chaos off it. At the time of filming, Lawford's marriage to Patricia Kennedy, sister of President John F. Kennedy, was collapsing under rumors of affairs and alcoholism. The movie set in Europe became his sanctuary. Crew members recalled that Lawford was overly polite, almost rehearsed, trying to prove he could be professional again. Yet, between takes, he'd quietly call Los Angeles to beg his wife to speak to him. When the press showed up for behind-the-scenes photos, Lawford forced smiles beside fellow Rat Pack friend Richard Burton, masking his unraveling life. He once told Burton, "I came here to fight the war they wrote, not the one I made at home." The Longest Day wasn't just another movie for Lawford, it was his last stand against scandal. Paul Anka was almost thrown out for being too famous. He was the film's youngest cast member and the only pop idol. Singer-songwriter Paul Anka was just 20 when he landed a small role as an American Army Ranger. But his presence caused chaos. European fans mobbed his hotel, and studio security struggled to keep crowds away. Producers feared the spectacle would cheapen the movie's realism. At one point, Zanuck threatened to cut him entirely, saying, "This isn't a rock concert." Anka pleaded to stay, promising he'd disappear into uniform. He not only kept his part, he ended up co-writing the film's theme song, The Longest Day, later recorded by Mitch Miller. In the end, the teen idol became the voice of the war epic, a soldier of rhythm in a film of rifles. Gert Fröbe's German past nearly got him removed. Before he was the villain Goldfinger, Gert Fröbe was fighting a different reputation. The German actor, cast as Sergeant Kaffeekanne, had once been a member of the Nazi Party as a teenager, a fact that resurfaced during production. Allied veterans on the crew were furious. Zanuck considered firing him, but decided to keep him after learning Fröbe had risked his life hiding Jewish refugees during the war. When American extras confronted him, Fröbe quietly said, "I was once blind. I now see." The set fell silent. It was a rare moment when a movie about moral choices was mirrored by its own cast. Fröbe's redemption wasn't scripted, it was lived. Eddie Albert's real PTSD shaped his performance. For actor Eddie Albert, the explosions weren't fiction. Before Hollywood, he'd captained a landing craft at Tarawa in 1943 and personally rescued 70 Marines under fire. Decades later, while filming The Longest Day, the recreated chaos triggered his old trauma. Crew members recalled him trembling during takes, staring blankly after cut. When asked if he was okay, Albert said, "You can't fake what you've already lived." His quiet intensity gave his role an authenticity that no direction could manufacture. And though most audiences never noticed, every flinch, every pause, every breath in his performance came from memory, one too vivid to fade. Mel Ferrer was secretly competing with Audrey Hepburn. Hollywood's golden couple had cracks beneath the shine. While Mel Ferrer filmed The Longest Day in Europe, his wife, Audrey Hepburn, was at home shooting Charade. Gossip columns claimed she'd outshined him in fame and fortune, and Ferrer felt the pressure. Crew members described him as unusually tense, checking box office updates from home, demanding his name appear higher in promotional materials. Zanuck finally told him, "We're not selling marriages here. We're selling D-Day." Ferrer never forgot the sting. His performance as a French resistance leader was crisp and cold, fueled by the quiet resentment of a man battling not the Germans, but his own ego. Kenneth Moore nearly caused an international incident. What started as a prank nearly turned diplomatic. British actor Kenneth Moore, known for his humor, once borrowed a real French Army Jeep from a local base for an offset joyride. He crashed it into a café terrace, scattering tables and shocking patrons. The French gendarmerie arrested him on the spot, unaware he was a star in uniform. Only after studio lawyers intervened did they release him. Zanuck was livid, but later admitted the stunt boosted morale. At least someone invaded something successfully this week. Moore paid for the damages himself, but the story spread through set gossip like wildfire. For the rest of production, he was jokingly called General Mayhem. John Wayne's final scene wasn't in the script. The film's closing moments were meant to show victory, but John Wayne changed that. During reshoots, Wayne improvised an unscripted pause. As soldiers marched forward, he stopped, turned toward the ruined beach, and muttered under his breath, "That's the price." Zanuck loved it, even though the line wasn't written anywhere. It became the emotional punctuation of the film, raw, understated, human. What no one realized was that Wayne had whispered those same words years earlier, while visiting a real veteran's grave. In that instant, the Hollywood cowboy dropped the myth and became what he'd always wanted to play, a soldier humbled by sacrifice. So the next time you watch The Longest Day, remember it wasn't just a war film. It was a battlefield of pride, pain, and hidden truths behind the camera. Every salute masked a rivalry. Every explosion echoed a memory. Which cast secret hit you hardest? Tell us below. Subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. And stay tuned, because the real battles were always off-screen.